My name is Zach Ludi again. I go by Zach. I was Air Force. I was in from 2000, 2007. I was out of Marysville, Ohio. I graduated from a smart farm school out there. People might know Fairbanks. Thought either be a farmer or join the military. Decided no against the farmers. I wanted to be a military. Went to school. Quickly after I joined in 2000, September 11th happened, and my life changed completely to where I am today. If it wasn't for the military, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So thank you for all those that are out there in the audience that have served or have families that served, because it truly made a difference in my life. So here today, I'm talking to you about serving veterans. I'm going to go into the Ohio Means Job Centers here just a little bit later. But I do want to dispel some stigmas and some myths out there too within the veteran communities, especially when it comes to there's a variety of different veteran definitions, whether you know it or not. We'll also talk about what priority of service is within the Ohio Means Job Centers. We'll also discuss my program, the Jobs for Veterans State Grant. I have 47 great men and women that work underneath our program all across that serve all 88 Ohio counties. And we'll talk about what we do for veterans within the Ohio Means Job Centers. We'll also talk a little bit about the DD-214, what that looks like. We'll talk about military culture, rank structure, some common transition obstacles, and military translation for those that aren't not familiar with the military culture. Then we'll get into some various resources. There's tons of resources out there. You'll get a copy of this slide deck after the presentation. Within the slide deck, every single resource is clickable and has links directly to the sites that you need to get to. So if you do come across somebody that's interested in apprenticeship or needs help with housing assistance, you'll have all the links you need and information to go to. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some of our special programs within the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. So real quick, veteran definitions. Everybody thinks the term active duty. What does active duty actually mean? That means you're actually in federal service, not state service. You attend basic training and then you remain on active service, much like I did. When I was in the military, I was an aircraft maintainer. So I worked on MH-53 Pavlo helicopters, which kind of look like the ones off the Transformer movies. If you ever watched a Transformer movie, that's kind of what it looked like before they got phased out. Now into the CV-22 Ospreys, the double wings that transition. Did that. I was a communications, navigations, systems guy. Worked on radios, radar equipment, and train following things. So I stayed in after I got done with basic training and did that for 6 years. With regards to for priority of service, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, any length of service qualifies for that. Now, there's also something called a reserves military veteran, still federal service, but they don't stay on active duty the entire time unless they're called up. And what they call Title 10 service, it's activated by POTUS, the President of the United States, activates these individuals for campaign and critical permanent positions. And then, of course, we also have our National Guard military veterans. A lot of them are right here in the state of Ohio. We have almost 40,000 here in the state of Ohio. Within that, we have a lot of part-time folks. They can be called up by the state governor anytime. So say there's flooding going on down in Portsmouth, Ohio, they can get called up under what they call Title 32 service. And they can also be called up by the President of the United States under Title 10 service. So why do I keep saying Title 32 and Title 10? Because Title 32 versus Title 10 qualifies you for different types of benefits, especially when it comes to federal VA and medical benefits. So whether you know it or not every military veteran is entitled to VA health care. So it depends on your length of service and how recently you got out, whether you're service connected, whether you're Title 32 or if you're Title 10. Title 10 typically qualifies you for VA health care, but you typically have to have certain service requirements, and I don't want to get too much down the rabbit hole on that. So when it comes to different veteran definitions, it's a good segue. Talking about military veteran organizations, Danny Eakins and his great team that does all the county veteran service offices across the great state of Ohio, they have a different definition than what our program definition is. Our program definition is 1 day of service within the Ohio Means Job Centers. If you want to work directly with a DVOP, which is what's called a Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialist, we have a 180-day service requirement. We'll talk about that later. But the other thing is, too, you also get veteran stigma and perception out there. So my uncle, for example, served in Vietnam. When I say served, I should say he served during Vietnam, because he said he was stationed up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and not one enemy aircraft got across the Canadian border his entire time during the Vietnam War. Why do I share that? Because he does not, to this day, does not consider himself a veteran because of all the people that died and lost their lives during the Vietnam War. And that goes for many other veterans out there. They don't look at themselves as veterans because they didn't have any boots on the ground. They didn't do any campaign service. So that's why there's a lot of varying definitions out there. But you can refer veterans to those organizations and let those organizations settle that out. So priority of service. Priority of service pertains to the Ohio Means Job Centers. Since I am a U.S. Department of Federal Service, I'm a U.S. Department of Labor, federally funded state worker, and we have federally funded state workers in county offices. So every year around Thanksgiving, Grandma asks, hey, how's the VA doing? It's great, Grandma, still working for the VA. But we're state workers at the end of the day. We're federally funded state workers in county offices. It's kind of confusing for folks, but within our offices, Ohio Means Job Centers, we're required to offer priority of service. So priority of service, what does that mean? So there's a bunch of fancy wording up on the screen for priority of service. But with all things being equal, veterans are to receive priority of service or anybody else who's never served in the military before. So if I want to get into our workshop, or if there's training dollars available, which we do have training dollars available for short-term certifications or education programs, many like to choose the CDL tracks, things like that. Veterans are to get front-of-the-line service to access to those resources. With all things being equal. So if the program itself, like for example, for the training dollars, you have to be low income in order to qualify for that program. Just because I'm a vet, and if I'm not low income, I'm not eligible for that program. I still got to meet the income criteria, and then I get bumped up to the front of the list as far as activities. Other things include job fairs. So if we have job fairs, veterans receive priority in job fairs, as well as when we try to fill candidate openings for employers, veteran resumes are picked first if there is any qualified veterans. Additionally, within workshops and other activities. How do we identify veterans? Well, that's what we have what's called our Veterans Questionnaire. We have 3 different access points in order to get into the Ohio Means Job Center system. Access point 1 is the old school way, the brick and mortar. We have an Ohio Means Job Center in every single county across the great state of Ohio. Within those centers, when a veteran walks into the door, or any customer for that matter, they ask, have you ever served in the military? The reason why we ask if you ever served in the military is because for those reasons I explained earlier, my uncle doesn't recognize himself as a veteran, so if they asked, are you a veteran? He would not recognize himself as a veteran. So that's why he said, have you ever served in the military? Because whether you're National Guard, Reserve, or veteran, campaign, non-campaign, at the end of the day, did you serve in the military? Yes, I did. So therefore, for priority of service-wise, you're eligible as long as you have 1 day of service. Whether you stayed 10 years or just 1 day, you are eligible for priority of service. That includes our National Guard and reservists. So we identify them through this Veterans Questionnaire during intake, helps them get into the representative to best meet their needs. Depending on how they answer, they may get to one of our staff, our Disabled Veteran Outreach Program staff, our vet staff specifically, and if not, they will still get taken care of that same day. It's called priority of service, self-service. That same day, we'll take care of them through another partner program. In addition to the snail method, I call it, still going through the centers, walk-in traffic, we also have the online version. So this is, everybody's heard of, I hope, of OhioMeansJobs.com. So if you get on OhioMeansJobs.com and you register on OhioMeansJobs.com, upon registration, a giant yellow banner at the top of the screen asks for employment assistance, a member of our nation's military community. You can submit your Veterans Questionnaire here. You click on that link, and you complete this Veterans Questionnaire. The moment you complete that Veterans Questionnaire, in real time, it's transferred to our state staff. So I know I got Carrington sitting over here to my right. If there's an individual that meets our eligibility and is interested in services, he'll get that notification immediately, and we'll reach out either that same day, or if not the next day, if it gets to be too late in the day. If somebody doesn't want to register on OhioMeansJobs.com, that's okay, I get it. Not everybody wants to create a password and list all their passwords for 1,000 sites. We also have a website that's part of Ohio Means Jobs called Ohio Means Jobs military service page, but the quick title for it is OhioMeansVeteransJobs.com. So at OhioMeansVeteransJobs.com, there's a plethora of resources I'll talk about later that's on that website. But there's also a page called the one-on-one assistance page where people can literally just fill out a quick Microsoft Form survey and it will route real time to our staff too. So at the end of the day, when people are coming in for a priority of service either within Ohio Means Job Center or within OhioMeansJobs.com, we ensure that everybody reaches out to those individuals, thanks them for their service, and invites them into the centers. We're all veteran representatives at the end of the day, and we can assist them with whatever they need, job search wise. Some of the activities that we include within our Ohio Means Job Centers are workshops. So there are a lot of centers. It varies by center. So like, for example, here in Franklin County, it's 1111 East Broad Street. At the Ohio Means Job Center, they offer a variety of workshops, everything from building your brand to leveraging networks such as LinkedIn to developing a resume, mock interviewing, those types of general workshops. Additionally, if individuals want it, they can request one-on-one assistance, and that's where our staff get together and sit down and do personalized mock interviews, help with personalized resume tailoring. We also provide job leads. So say you got a welder, and we'll call up Joe over at ABC Welding and go, hey, I got a military vet welder. Are you interested in hiring this individual? We'll advocate on behalf of that individual and go through the application process with them. And then we'll work with them all the way up until they gain employment. And then once they gain employment, we'll track them upwards of a year in order to make sure they maintain that employment and it's a good fit. So this is the DD-214 for those who have not seen it. The DD-214 contains a bunch of eligibility information regarding our program and many other programs out there in the veteran community. It's the most single important document that any veteran would ever own. If you get anybody that's coming out of the military, the number one thing I request them to do, I encourage people to do, is file that DD-214 at your county recorder's office because the VA is not known to take care of great job of taking care of documentation, or it takes months in order to get this DD-214 again. So I encourage everybody to record it at their county recorder's office. Side story, the reason why I say that is because if it wasn't for the county recorder's office, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I got out of the military in 2007 or so. And the first thing my mom told me was, hey, the president's on TV saying you need to go down and get registered at the VA. So I got registered at the VA, and they go, hey, you need to go down and get your DD-214 recorded at the county recorder's office. I'm like, okay, I'll go down and do that. So I talked to some lady at the Union County recorder's office, and she goes, you just got out of the military? She's like, yeah, when did you get out? I'm like, about 2 weeks ago. And she goes, have you ever filed for benefits? And I'm like, I didn't know anything about benefits or anything because at that time, there was no TAP class. But now TAP is a lot better than it was back in the day. Got out and went to the county recorder's office, and they walked me across the street to the Union County Veteran Service office. They found out that I was injured in service, applied me for a bunch of benefits, and now I got a disability rating established to the VA, which opened up doors to other disability ratings and employment opportunities. So that's why I always encourage people to get them in touch with their local services, because they can help. They know their network's closer with their ears to the ground than everybody else. But part of this DD-214, it's kind of a resume in itself. Talks about a lot about the characters of service, whether it's general under honorable, dishonorable, bad conduct, those types of things. So quick question, is a dishonorable discharge a bad conduct discharge? Does anybody know?
I'm a retired military judge, so yeah, I know.
You know what the difference is? So the answer is what? They're not the same. So sometimes when you get a DD-214, everybody knows the term honorable service on a DD-214. There's general honorable, there's also emotional distress discharges. There's a lot of variety of discharges. Just know that if it says bad conduct, yes, somebody may have made a mistake while in the military, popped out on a drug test or whatever reason it was and got out. Those discharges can still be upgraded to the local county veteran service offices, possibly. And within those discharges, that bad conduct discharge is not as dishonorable. So the only way that somebody would not be eligible for our services or most military veteran services was if they got a dishonorable discharge. And if they got a dishonorable discharge, then it's very likely that they're not going to identify themselves as a military veteran anyways. Something very seriously happened while in the military service. Think like places like Fort Leavenworth, things like that. But I'd say 95% of people that get out of the military are eligible for services within the employment realms. So military culture, we talk, we have a certain way we talk. We're very direct, very outspoken, very confident in how we portray ourselves. We have a lot of acronyms and jargon, SNAFU, FUBAR, I'll let you look those up on your own. Discipline, we definitely need clear direction when it comes to discipline. As far as chain of command goes, we very respect the chain of command. We won't go around somebody. We're very ritualized and documented our feedback through formal evaluations, and we have a huge sense of camaraderie. I know my friend Danny back there. I'm not a big fan of the Army, but at the end of the day, we'll lay down lives for each other, even though we'll tease each other about what the Army stands for. Aren't really Marines yet. There's a lot of acronyms out there along the military community, but we're all brothers and sisters at the end of the day. So there's a lot of reasons. I also want to share some reasons to hire vets. This month is November. If you're not aware, it's kind of our Super Bowl month. We have the governor proclaims it every single year as our annual Hire a Vet month. Within Hire a Vet month, we put on a variety of presentations. I just did one a couple weeks ago that we recorded about the benefits of hiring veterans. This is just a couple slides on that. It's about 40 slides long that we went through and talked about the benefits of hiring veterans, as well as other employer programs out there and things we do to help support the employer community. But a lot of veterans that get out, kind of hard to see in that little chart. Most people think veteran, what's the first thing that people think if you've never served in the military before? Rambo. That's what most people think. Most people think that veterans have PTSD, been in a lot of combat type of situations, and that's simply not true. That's just such a small amount of veterans that went through that type of atmosphere. Myself, I never saw any direct combat. Yes, I was in forward operating bases overseas, but I never saw any direct combat myself. Of course, I was Air Force, but joking on myself. But a lot of combat specialties. For example, only 14.5% of the military served in a combat role. Outside of the 14.5%, the other largest fields are engineering, transportation, logistics, and then vehicle machine mechanic, which I kind of fell into that kind of industry. Those are the biggest sectors within the military. So only 14.5% of people maybe serve combat, and most of those do not come away with PTSD. So just trying to dispel that myth out there. A lot of people think that a lot of veterans have that type of disorder. But we're very loyal, dependable, we're critical thinking, flexible. We know we're mission focused, we adapt and overcome. We're very experienced in DEI, very good team players, and we're experienced and trained in many military careers from a variety of healthcare, human resources, and beyond. So within the enlisted side, there's an enlisted and there's an officer side of the house. Within the enlisted side, 83% of military veterans are in the enlisted rank. E1 to E4, which is where I fell into, are enlisted grades and non-commissioned officers. E4s are based upon performance or are promoted into what they call NCOs, non-commissioned officers. And the E4 to E6 are junior NCOs and E9s. So on this chart, you can kind of see the different ranks across the different branches and kind of what the pay scales are. I'll talk about that kind of compensation package in a second. But within those, you have different levels of varying responsibilities. So if you're like an E3, E4, you may manage a small team of 3 or 4 people. If you're E5, E6, could be 10 to 20 people. And the higher up you go, the more people you could oversee and have responsibility vary for. Officers, the bane of existence for the enlisted side. Officers are commissioned through a military academy, Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC, you may have heard at the local colleges and universities, and then other officer candidate schools are OCS. 63% of officers are between the ranges of 03 through 05. Only 0.39% get up to the general range. Typically, in order to get to the general range, you've had to have been commissioned into one of the military academies, most likely. I think it's less than 0.5% of generals ever come outside of that. 100% of officers have a bachelor's degree, and there is a mixed blend between an enlisted and an actual officer called a warrant officer that are specialized expert or trainer in his or her career. Most of the warrant officers I know were kind of like helicopter pilots, were kind of a crossbreed. So officer enlisted, commissioned officers are managers, problem solvers, key influencers, and planners who lead warrant officers and enlisted soldiers, whereas NCOs are enlisted and directly supervise those junior enlisted folks. So similar to corporate titles, there's a difference between officer and enlisted and varying levels of responsibility. But if you think about it like a general at the very top, you think about CEO, vice presidents. If you think about majors, lieutenant colonels, you think about directors, managers, and engineers and so forth, all the way down to the specialists and the techs on the enlisted side of the house. So again, just to recap, E1s, E4s are kind of a member of the team. They're the junior enlisted folks. They have a core set of values: duty, honesty, loyalty, teamwork. The E4s to E6s are small unit leaders, military training. They have various advancement training schools, Airman Leadership School, for example, on the Air Force side of the house. We have lots of skill sets regarding leadership, discipline, and communication. E7 to E8, you're a mid-sized unit leader. You have an advanced professional, sometimes even an MBA, and then E9, it gets even more advanced with the level of experience. Skip that. So getting to compensation, this is one I just put on recently. I haven't updated this slide compared to my other presentation. So these aren't current cost of living numbers. So compensation package varies in the military. Everybody hears the military does not get paid very well. That's somewhat true and somewhat not true. The reason why I share that is the military is very well paid, but not through actual paycheck, but through compensation. So if you look at within the Dayton element, say you're an E5, you only served 4 years here at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, you could possibly be making a compensation package about $60,000 a year. That's a pretty good stable living. You may only make maybe $20,000, $25,000 out of your paycheck, but you get BAH, say it's $1,200 a month, basic assistance for housing. You get a basic assistance for subsistence as far as food and rent, those types of things. So it could all evaluate over to $60,000 a year. And it's not even including all the tax-free shopping. There isn't free daycare. There is discounted daycare a lot of times, especially in local communities, then other military discounts. And then if you are in a combat role or those types of scenarios where you do get deployed to a forward operating base, there is things like hostile fire pay or jump pay that you can get some additional a couple $100 per month. And of course, the biggest benefit for most military, the reason why they stay in, just like probably a lot of people you've heard, reason why they don't retire, medical benefits. Medical benefits are huge nowadays. So everything's taken care of for both themselves and their family members with their dependents while still in the military. So did want to talk about some obstacles within the TSM and veterans scope. So a lot of times nowadays, what we're learning more and more, and I'm sure Danny could talk more to it too, is the military is typically now the first employment for many of the folks. It used to be that you go bale hay for your dad out in the fields, or you go work at the local grocery store when you're 16, 17 years old. But typically, most of military recruits now have zero civilian experience. So one of the biggest challenges they face getting out of the military is lacking that experience within the civilian sector. Learning how to look for a job, how to network, create a resume, how to apply, and interview can all be somewhat challenging, especially when you're translating over from direct communication acronym speak into civilian terms. Also determining how to translate those military skills and easy to understand civilian terms for use on a resume or job applications. We have a great military skills translator on OhioMeansJobs.com, but I encourage you to play around with AI. We've been doing a lot of that as a staff, as a team on our side of the house. So something as simple as take this resume and put it into civilian terms. It's something as simple as that, and AI could do that for you. Also, when interviewing, many transitioning service members have a challenge with adapting their direct military communication style and say, hey, I worked at an MRAP. Okay, what's an MRAP? They never explain what the MRAP is, but it's a mine-resistant anti-personnel carrier. But that's the type of issues that they have a lot of times within the military. One way you can work around that is getting with, on OhioMeansJobs.com, we also have a practice interview school toolkit. So within that practice interview toolkit, if I get in front of you and you ask me, and the AI asks you a question on OhioMeansJobs.com, it'll give you real-time feedback and saying, you're saying too much, you're waving your hands too much, you went too long in your answer, you need to work on your brevity, we didn't understand what this terminology was, it'll give you real-time feedback. And then other things that, because, say, for example, individuals like me who joined right out of high school and say you end up staying in because you get for family and you need medical reasons, and you need health care insurance, so you stay in for 10, 20 years, and you get out. Many times you may not, because of all your deployments, may not have gotten the chance to finish your degree or certification or get a credential of sorts. A lot of times, a lot of individuals lack those types. It's mainly on the enlisted side for that. The other big challenge, as I talked about that compensation package, you get out, you get to a certain standard of living. Imagine yourself right now, wherever you're at, standard of living wise. Imagine, ask somebody when you're getting out, hey, I need you to take a 20 to 30% pay cut. It can be quite challenging for families to adapt to that. And oh, by the way, we don't have great health benefits, especially if you're in a smaller mom and pop business. You have to have larger deductibles. That's kind of all new to somebody. The other big thing too that impacts a lot of veterans, and this is one of the big challenges I had, is that lack of camaraderie. So I got out in Florida, came back to Ohio. I didn't have any network other than my family, so I missed that clear sense of a clear mission, clear sense of camaraderie when you get out of the military. And then often, this affects a lot of especially our National Guard Reserve members. They also face the challenge of having to quickly readjust. So imagine you get uprooted, you get orders, here we have a National Guard unit, you're gone for a year and a half, and then you get back, and then within 2 weeks, maybe even less a lot of times, you need to assimilate back into civilian life, and oh, by the way, you need to get back to work. So that can be quite challenging for a lot of folks, especially if they've been, especially in a combat-oriented type role. So the readjustment to family life can be quite challenging. It's also challenging not only just for our service members, but our military spouses. So I've been a big advocate of trying to get the military spouse word out there. So military spouses, they often face a big challenge. So think about, and especially on the active duty military side, you get varying levels of orders. About every 2 to 3 years, you expect things to get shook up. So for example, you may be stationed here, right, Pat, for a couple of years, but then they ship you out to Joint Base Lewis McChord out in Seattle, Washington for a couple of years, and you might end up at Elmendorf, Alaska for a couple of years, down to Herbert Field, Florida for a couple of years. Well, that every couple of years, you think about, as if you're a military spouse, following your military service member along those courses, that's kind of tough to keep a stable career. Not a lot of companies will allow you to be remote work. Nowadays, it's starting to be a little more common, but you got to think the last 20 years, it was never common like that. So military spouses have always been one of those larger populations. They lack a military family support system, especially if that service member gets deployed and they have to stay home and take care of the kids or move back in with mom and dad in order to do that. And they have a lot of employment gaps and large pockets of unemployment. So a military spouse unemployment on average is somewhere between 15 to 20% right now across the nation, just because lack of work experience, employment gaps. Why is employment gap such a big deal? Well, they have these things called employer applicant tracking systems, ATS systems. So the employer automatically has AI or another mechanism in their screening out methods. It notices that somebody has a lot of employment gaps, points them as a higher risk, and then therefore screens them out of a lot of positions. So we've been trying to get the word out about that. And then there is some things around issues regarding interstate license portability, whether it be, say, for example, it does not like this in Ohio, but a lot of their states do have this challenge. So in Ohio, as of 2023, any military spouse that comes to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or stationed here in Ohio, say they have a social worker license or whatever license it be from another state, we recognize that license and credential here in the state of Ohio. When they transfer to other states may not have that same reciprocity. So that's a big challenge nationwide and not necessarily here in Ohio. And then you got to think about, not only does high levels of unemployment impact things, you got to think about economic stability long term, especially if things don't work out between service members and the spouses, and how that impacts their long term ability to save for and be ready for retirement. So translating military jargon, this is just a real quick example. I talked about the mine-resistant, ambush-protected. I thought anti-personnel, my bad, I'm not Army. MRAP, but this is what it would translate to if you used our military translator tool on ohiomeansjobs.com. Talks about training personnel on vehicle operation, automotive and electrical maintenance procedures, command and mission control center issue directives for key staff. Additional duties include logistic manager, training, mentoring, and civilian. That's what it looks like on a military skills translator. If you click on the military skills translator, this is our ohiomeansveteransjobs.com page. On that military skills translator, hit launch. We partner with monster.com to help provide the military skills translator. Literally, you can type in something like as simple as 88 Mike. Here in this example of 88 Mike is a motor vehicle transport operator. Within that motor vehicle transfer operator, you have the ability to look at current opportunities for that position. So if you get out of the military and you want to be doing the same type of role, you can match directly to Ohio opportunities through this military skills translator. Additionally, it gives you a list of civilian skills that you could put on your resume, and you can also start to build a resume too there towards the top of creating a resume based upon your military experience. So speaking of licensing credentialing, I kind of spoke briefly about the interstate license portability. We have a lot of it. A lot of this information that's available on ohiomeansveteransjobs.com. So on our Ohio Means Jobs Military Service page, or ohiomeansveteransjobs.com, we do have a tool that you can literally type in your AFSC MOS. So if I'm an 88 Mike, motor vehicle transport operator, it'll point me directly to the BMV. If I'm a combat medic, it'll directly pull me over to the Ohio Department of Health. And a lot of these agencies have varying rules across agencies and boards, but this tool helps easily map to those military pages and helps you show what they accept as far as credit-wise. So if, like, say, for example, here in Ohio, you're a combat medic, and you get out and you want to be an EMT, a lot of times they'll take all your credit and experience into account, and maybe even waive some of the testing or licensing fees going into those types of activities. And there's thousands of activities and over 20 or 30 boards at least. Also, you can also find information on different states where you can get mapped to different states if you're going somewhere else. We also got another example would be the Ohio BMV, Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles. If you're 88 Mike, say especially if you're in the Ohio National Guard Reserves and you still have access to your previous commander and you're getting out with 120 days, they can sign off on a simple form with the BMV. I forget what it's called, like a 2080, and they'll waive the written test portion at least of the BMV for the CDLs. Many other states are different, but we do have information on there for other states. Of course, we got information on there too on ohiomeansveteransjobs.com regarding education, licensing and education, including the Ohio Department of Higher Education's commitment to military families, including the Purple Star program that helps support military families in Ohio schools. We also offer in-state tuition rates for military training and experience. Scholarship opportunities for veterans and their families, much like the War Orphan Scholarship. So if you are 50% service connected or more and you have a dependent that's going to school, Ohio will pay up to a certain percentage for that individual to go to school as a thank you for your service. There's many scholarships like that available, and we have all that information available on ohiomeansveteransjobs.com. The Collegiate Purple Star recognizes military connected and supportive and inclusive schools. And then we have the Veterans Upward Bound program, which is enhancement of basic skills through counseling. In addition, we also have licensure assistance through a program. A lot of people may have heard of Troops to Teachers. That program has since been sunsetted, but the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce has stepped up and is doing the Ohio Military Veteran Education accreditation. Educator program, I apologize. Within that program, it's much just like Troops to Teachers. They have scholarships that can help waive a lot of testing fees for people and licensure fees for people that are interested in going into teaching careers, as well as help them with direct placement assistance through the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. They also eliminated fees for the educator license for veterans, service members, and their spouses. They have student military family resources as well as the Purple Star designation list. And then they also do every year the Ohio U.S. Armed Forces Career Commitment Celebration, recognizing those that are going into the military from our school systems. Of course, we got our main licensing education on there. We have the Montgomery GI Bill, which I kind of fell under, but then I also became eligible for Montgomery post 9/11 GI Bill. We also got information on the Chapter 31 program. Does anybody ever heard of the Chapter 31 program? Good. So if you have an individual that come across and they have a service-connected rating from the VA, they are entitled or eligible, possibly, for free education. So if, say, they used up all their GI Bill or their GI Bill lapsed and it's expired, they can go back to school through the VA, through the Chapter 31. It's called the Veteran Readiness and Employment Program. And so within that program, they'll help them identify a career that won't impact their service-connected disabilities. To give you a real quick example, say you got 2 bad knees from jumping out of perfectly good helicopters, you can't be doing heavy lifting or anything like that anymore. That's maybe get you into more of a sedentary job or IT or something else that won't impact that service connection. They'll help you do all the exploration of what you need in order to complete schooling. Once you complete schooling, 100% of them are referred to us, my program, and we help them with direct placement system afterwards to make sure they succeed. In addition to the education programs, we also have there's a lot of better reputable partner programs out there around the nation, not only just here in Ohio. There's places like the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans they may know of. Hiring Our Heroes, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we participate proudly with them at a lot of their job fairs here at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and across the nation. We have MOAA, which is Military Officers Association of America. Spouse Education and Career Opportunities, or SECO, which is Military One Source. Hire Our Heroes, HowIMeansJobs.com, the Small Business Administration. We got Heroes Make America, which is with regards to manufacturing. Corporate Gray, Recruit Military, Veteran Recruiting, USA Jobs, and Clearance Jobs. You just name a few partners that we have on our Ohio Means Veterans Jobs pages, and we often share a lot of their programs and events on our social media pages with the veteran community. There's also quite a bit of military programs within the transition space. So when we say transition, those are those individuals, transitioning service members who are getting out of the military within the next year or so. There's a lot of reputable organizations out there. So just to name a few, the TAP program, which is the Transition Assistance Program. So those that are getting out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Does anybody know how many get out of Wright-Pat every year? Go ahead, Danny. How many? 800? Yeah, roughly between 800 to 1,000 come out of Wright-Pat. So you're wondering, wow, why aren't we seeing a whole lot of transitioning service members come out of Wright-Pat? Well, that's more of a senior tenured base. It's a research base. So typically those E5s and above are typically who we see getting out. Of those 800 and 1,000 that are coming to Ohio and staying in Ohio, most of them, I'd say not all of them, but a lot of them have jobs that are kind of well connected across the gate to the federal contractor side, the Air Force Research Laboratory, those type of positions. So Danny and his team, I'm sure you may have heard of it already today, are doing a fantastic job of trying to get in touch with other bases in order to get some pipelines established for folks coming back to Ohio. In addition to the TAP program, which we brief at every 2 weeks at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, we have a DBOP that goes out there. We also have the OBTT program, the Off-Base Transition Training. So off-base transition training, if you're like, hey, I need somebody to take interviewing or LinkedIn or building my brand or whatever those types of workshops are, they have a series over 12 workshops. It's open 24/7, 365 days a year to anybody who's ever served. Not just those who are getting out, but to anybody who ever served, including military spouses. So that's a great program out there. So if you're looking for somebody that needs to level up on, just brush up on their interview skills, that's a great access. Same thing with teams. That's just the spouse version of it. DoD Skill Bridge is a great way for employers to help find that path, that pipeline of transitioning service members coming back to Ohio. So we partner with them in order to help try to identify those service members. Military One Source, Soldier for Life, Marine, there's a Marine for Life, there's a U.S. Army Reserve, USO, Paralyzed Veterans of America, and many other resources. All these are clickable and available to you in your slide deck. There's also a lot of apprenticeship. Apprenticeship seems to be the key word of the day lately, trying to get more folks into apprenticeship because we're lacking a big, huge skill demand, especially with all the building going up around here in Columbus. But we partner with the United States Department of Labor. We have our sister organization, Apprentice Ohio, within the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services that goes over those types of programs. Also got Veterans in Piping, Amazon, VetTech, BuildSubmarines.com. BuildSubmarines.com, for those who don't know, we're in a once-over-a-lifetime initiative within the Marine Industrial Base with the Department of Defense. They need a lot of builders for new subs, nuclear subs. They haven't had, all of our sub fleet is aging, so they're trying to get a big push for that. And then you think, well, why does that matter here in Ohio? We don't have a whole lot of water other than Lake Erie. Well, it's not just the subs that are getting built themselves, it's the secondary service suppliers that supply the parts to those subs. And a lot of those are made right here in Ohio. So they're trying to do a big push to try to get more people into manufacturing, additive manufacturing. Then you got troops to transportation, troops to truckers, vets to cops, troops to energy. We just had them come out and present to our folks. There's been a big push. They got about 10,000 jobs open currently right now. They're projecting another 100,000 over the next 5 years of people due to retirements. They're trying to get more people into the energy sectors, not only here in Ohio, but nationwide. Then you got Apprenti, and then the U.S. Military Apprenticeship Program. So there's also a big segment of veteran entrepreneurs out there. They get tired of getting yelled at and tired of being told what to do. They want to be their own boss. So we try to point them in the right direction if that's something they're interested in. They can do that through the SBA. There's also a program on base out at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base called Boots to Business. They have a workshop once every couple months for those interested in Boots to Business. Then we also got some other various resources out there, like the VA has some small business programs as well as SCORE. VetFran is if you're interested in owning your own Chipotle or McDonald's or whatever franchise it is that you're interested in. And they got places like DAV Patriot Boot Camp and Warrior Rising that can help all these people get connected to funding sources in order to help them become their own boss. So financial-wise, I'm going to cover briefly over this. I'm sure a lot of people are kind of already aware of it. The Ohio Department of Veteran Services has a veteran resource guide. They have veteran benefits, including the Military Injury Relief Fund. So if anybody that was injured overseas is entitled to a Military Injury Relief Fund. They have military retirement tax exemption, recreation discounts, as well as other financial-related assistance. They have the county veteran service offices are in every single county across the great state of Ohio. Within those county veteran service offices, there's a lot of financial assistance available to their veterans and their families. They have certain income requirements typically, and you have to have a certain residency requirement of 90 days. Sometimes that can be worked around. But they can help out with rent and mortgage, first the month down payment help. They can help with electric, gas, water, sewage, utilities, those types of activities. Also, they can help with filing for VA disability compensation, military record requests, and then any veterans that were called to duty and weren't able to complete their high school diploma, they can help them with that too. Then they also have on the other county side of the house, they have the Jobs and Family Services locations. There's one in every single county as well. These are typically non-veteran specific, but they can also assist veterans with heating and energy assistance programs, with utilities, food SNAP. That's been in the headlines a lot lately. TANF, those types of activities. Then, if the veteran can't get served through one of those two activities, there's a lot of veteran-related service organizations too that can help. There's a lot of posts out there that do a lot of great things for a lot of great Americans, including the American Legion, the VFW, the AMVETS, America's Warrior Partnership, Disabled American Veterans, Red Cross, Volunteers of America, Paralyzed Veterans, Vietnam Veterans, many others out there. Operation Homefront's a great resource as well. How do people get in touch with resources? Well, I know it was talked about earlier today, relink.org is a great one, relink.org. I'm a big proponent of that one. But in addition to relink.org, there's My Vet Benefits, USA.gov, 211, Patriot Link, which is a veteran-specific and vetted resources, and then, of course, the National Resource Directory. Housing-wise, there's homeless and housing programs available through the VA. The VA is doing a phenomenal job of decreasing veteran homelessness going across the nation. They can find a shelter through various links here if you need that for the veterans that you serve. There's a list of Ohio Public Housing Agencies, Metro Housing Authorities, as well as the Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program here in Ohio. That's the Volunteers of America, if you've ever heard of that. There's also various legal programs too, including the specialized dockets. Here, the veteran specialized dockets that everybody's aware of. USERRA is an unemployment law. So before I went in the military, I was one of those that actually did work before I went in the military. When I got out of the military, I technically had fallback rights to go back to my previous job. Unfortunately, they were almost out of business at the time. It's called Blockbuster. But at the same time, technically military and National Guard reservists, they all have fallback rights to go back to their previous position after deployment or after military service. That's what USERRA is. If anybody needs help with that, they can. There's links here in order to get connected with folks to help talk to employers on their behalf and go, hey, you need to give them their job back. Additionally, there's other various medical services out there, including the VA, Ohio Department of Health, Ohio Veteran Homes, run by the Ohio Department of Veteran Services. There's TRICARE, VA Life Insurance now, healthcare.gov, various resources. Of course, mental health is one of the biggest things impacting the veteran community. There's a lot of resources too. With the active duty military side, they have Military One Source. But outside of Military One Source here in Ohio, we promote Ohio Cares, as well as the Veterans Crisis Line and the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation. So some other initiatives that we do within our programs. We have an RESCA program. So everybody kind of knows what unemployment is, so I'll just keep it real simple. So anybody on unemployment, they recognize a certain select group of people that are in certain career fields won't be able to maintain that career field. Let's say you're a floral designer and it's got a negative 20% job growth. Anybody who's a military veteran in those fields will be automatically flagged and pulled for our staff to work with in order to make sure that we help them overcome that labor market information gap and that employment gap. And that includes anybody who's transitioning service members or military spouses coming back to Ohio. As I mentioned earlier, we also have what we call workforce specialists, aka employer representatives in every single county across Ohio. Within those employer representatives, they prioritize veterans candidates' resumes for all types of activities on OhioMeansJobs.com when fulfilling employer candidate requests. Any military veteran that registers within our system gets a guide from the Ohio Department of Veteran Services on a veteran resource guide, as well as information on how to fill out a veterans questionnaire and get in touch with one of us if they want assistance. We also have another new program called Helping Ohioans Pursue Employment. It's an outreach effort to help unemployed. So those people that are on unemployment, anybody who's on unemployment that's a military spouse or veteran is also getting pulled off to a list and make sure they're making warm connections to us in order to see if we can help them out. Also within our agency, we also have an initiative called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. So it's a federal tax credit that's available to employers who hire individuals from eligible target groups, including veterans. Excuse me. Might click through. So work opportunity tax credit. So if you know any employers that want to hire vets, that's just another reason to hire a vet. So if you're unemployed vet, you're eligible up to a $2,400 tax credit. If you're an unemployed vet that's been unemployed 6 months or more, it could be up to $9,600. So it's a great way especially for smaller employers. Then we also have our Ohio Hilton Honors military program. So Hilton Honors is a program that's run through our agency. So if you have a military veteran that's going out of town for a background check, physicals, drug testing, any type of pre-employment testing, or a certification, or to keep or maintain employment, or they're going out for a job interview, We partner with Hilton Hotels. Everybody's probably heard of Hilton Hotels. Put them up with a place to stay for free. So Hilton, whether you know it or not, was founded by a World War I vet. They're a very proud organization, very military friendly. So how it works, if you have somebody that's interested, they can email us at ohiovetsfirst@jfs.ohio.gov or contact their local Ohio Means Job Center near them. And if they need that job interview, how it works is they give us their direct name. They sign up for Hilton Honors, which is the Hilton Honors loyalty program with Hilton.com. They sign up for that account. They email us their exact name and account number and just show us that they got a job interview or pre-employment testing. And then we contact Hilton, usually within a couple hours. They'll have 100,000 points donated to their account, and they can apply those points towards stays. So how many points equals a stay? That's the common question I get. So I'll give you an example. You stay at the Hilton downtown here in Columbus on New Year's Eve, it might be one stay. But if you stay at Hampton Inn and Suites, still a great brand at Hilton out in the suburbs, on a non-big holiday, it could be 3 to 4 nights. It just depends on the brand, the time of year, those types of things. But again, it's not everybody gets it because you're in the military. You actually have to be using it towards a job interview, those types of things. But it's one way that Hilton wants to give back, and we got to maintain that credibility with the program in order to continue the program. So JVSG Vet 90 program, I kind of mentioned this earlier, the Chapter 31 Vocational Readiness and Employment Program with the VA. That's another educational track for anybody who has a service-connected disability, is able to possibly go through that program. So you either found job ready or you're in need of training, and so you're getting out and you're getting done with training, you're 90 days close to graduation. So right now my buddy in the office, Dustin Bridgman, he operates this program, and he's getting a lot of referrals because there's a lot of December graduations coming up. And he'll get another lot of referrals again come February, March with the May graduations. But 90 days out from graduation, 100% every veteran that goes through this program comes to us, and he makes a referral out to one of our staff that we call the Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialist, DVOPS. So he manages that program. If you're curious on what the numbers look like, it's anywhere between 250 to 300 a year. Typically, that's how many of those are coming out of that program. And we help them with direct placement assistance to make sure they can be able to continue their funding. And then on the front end, we also provide career exploration, or what we call LMI, labor market information. So if somebody doesn't sure what they want to do, and say they're that underwater basket weaver or that floral designer that I mentioned earlier, we help them pick better career choices with bright outlooks in order for things to get approved through the VA. So I just want to show you a quick video that we have.
Ohio is grateful to military service members and veterans for their service to our country. We're also grateful to the spouses of military service members and veterans who make sacrifices while their loved ones are away. If you're a military service member, veteran, or the spouse of one, did you know you can take advantage of free employment services at both OhioMeansVeteranJobs.com or your local Ohio Means Job Center? At either the website or the center, you can get help translating your military skills into a civilian resume, creating a transition plan, connecting with military-friendly employers, applying for jobs, enrolling in workshops, and more. You can use as many or as few of these free services as you like on your own, or with help from an employment specialist. To get started, just log in or create a free account on OhioMeansVeteranJobs.com. To request help from an employment specialist, just click on the one-on-one assistance tile. You served our nation selflessly, and this is one small way to show our thanks.
That's one way we're trying to outreach, because one of the biggest things we heard is how do we get in touch with you, because every center is kind of different, and availability of different programs and services across centers are different. But at the end of the day, we do have a dedicated veteran staff member for every single center. They may not be there every single day of the week, because with funding, everybody's funding is kind of getting tight, so we can't have somebody there every single day of the week. But we do have one way that folks can reach out and do virtual services now. So again, on OhioMainsVeteransJobs.com, all that information I talked about earlier, professional licenses and certifications can be found there, as well as information on education training for the military. If you want to go back into the military again, or you got kids that want to go into the military, we have information on how to go about joining the military on OhioMainsVeteransJobs.com. We also have a list of military-friendly employers. So any employer that registers on OhioMainsJobs.com and indicates themselves as veteran-friendly, it comes up on a big map, and I'll show that here in a second. Of course, the request one-on-one assistance, the military skills translator, information on starting a business. We have all the transition assistance program information on there for transitioning from the military service, including Ohio benefits to military service members to encourage them to come back to Ohio. We got USERA rights information on there, as well as a list of all these partner programs and events that we share. One other thing, that little known tool on OhioMainsJobs.com or OhioMainsVeteransJobs.com is the Veterans Transition Plan. So if we have individuals that identify themselves as getting out of the military, whether they're at 0 to 3 months out or they're 18 plus months out, has a series of action steps in order to help them succeed in maintaining their successful action plan when they get out of the military. So something as simple as, hey, getting in touch with your local center, getting Diddy Move set up, applying for service connection benefits to the VA, and so on and so on. There's over 90-some tasks that people can do to help successfully navigate their military transition. They can track them at however they want, and it links them to military.com articles in order to help them get them to the information in order to help them succeed. Of course, earlier I mentioned veterans priority and employer searches. One way we do that is through identifying them resumes-wise. This is an example of what it looks like. So if you're on the employer side of the house and say, I want a welder, if there is a veteran resume in the system within your certain search criteria, zip code or whatever it is, and it's welder, the veteran resume will come up to the top over anybody else, and it'll be identified by that red, white, and blue V. And additionally, within the last couple of years, we also do that now for military spouses too, in order to better identify those individuals. Of course, there is some Ohio military-friendly employer resources. We have a Hire a Vet page that we just went through for all the employers, most recently this month for Hire a Vet Month. On that page, we also get information about Danny's team with the Ohio Department of Veterans Workforce. They host various Society of Human Resource Management events on the first Friday every month surrounding military culture. So if you want to learn more in depth in some of the topics I covered today, there'll be a lot more depth information on that. We also, of course, got the ESGR, the Employment Support of the Guard and Reserve Office. And then over there at the Ohio National Guard, we got the National Guard Employment Enhancement Program. Additionally is the U.S. Department of Defense Skill Bridge Program. Best way to describe this program is an individual getting out of the military, instead of going through the TAP program, the military can release them for up to 6 months prior to getting out of the military in order to go work with a local employer. The employer gets a free internship, essentially. The military still foots the bill salary-wise, and at the end of the day, it's a good match made and help reduce the rate of unemployment for military veterans, because a lot of times these lead to hires right after the military. We also have the Hire Vets Medallion Program, which we'll be announcing here in the next week or so. Kind of got delayed with the government shutdown, but the Hire Vets Medallion Program recognizes those that actually certify, and they do it through a certification process, that a certain percentage of their new hires are veterans, or a certain portion of their population are veterans, or they have employer resource groups, things like that. And that's a federal program. I already shared that we do November is Hire a Vet Month. We talk about employers, apprenticeship, military spouses, transitioning service members. We have weekly themes. We share all these Hire Vets Medallion Program to workforce systems and partners. There are some resources here too, not only just me. I know I'm not kind of monotone sometimes, but there are some great resources out there with the National Veterans Training Institute, all free to the public and partners. We also got information on the priority of service, including some WIOA training, Psych Armor Institute, and Career One Stop. There's our contact information. Again, if you need to have any vet that needs to get in touch with us, have them go into the local Ohio Means Job Center, register on OhioMeansJobs.com, or go to that Military Service One-on-One Assistance page to get in touch with us. You can also get in touch with us with that QR code, or emailing us at ohiovetsfirst@jfs.ohio.gov. I have plenty of cards if you need to get in touch with me directly and come out and do a customized presentation. This was more generalized. I'll be more than happy to do that. But thank you very much for your time. I know it's the end of the day. I really appreciate your attention, and thank you for everything you're doing out there to support our military communities. Thank you.